Hello, my name is Gary Jessee. I'm a Senior Vice President at Sellers Dorsey. The theme of this year's Older Americans Month is Aging Unbound, having the opportunity to explore an array of aging experiences without being boxed in by expectations and stereotypes. So, as we think more about the Older Americans Act, which underpins what we'll be talking about today, I think we'll know that things are so different than they were in 1965 when the Older Americans Act was created. One area where we've seen the greatest impact is the advancement of technology. Older adults of today are far more tech savvy and are looking for more sophisticated in home solutions that enable them to age in place. We know as a society, we all benefit when older adults remain engaged, independent, and included in their communities. The question remains, how do we better enable independence and engagement? And specifically, how do we make this a sustainable reality for those in traditionally underserved populations? As Sellers Dorsey marks Older Americans Month, I'm happy to be joined today by Dr. Nathan Estrada, who's the Vice President of Clinical Services from Nimble Science. Sellers Dorsey's had the pleasure of working with the Nimble team over the last year to expand their footprint and working with managed care organizations and other organizations to support independence. The message, Dr. Estrada, on your website sums it up. Nimble is on a mission to prove that aging is not less. As older adult champions, we balance, and we believe balancing improvement is key to improving overall quality of life. So, thank you for joining me today. And I'd like to ask you a few questions in the time that we have together. So, we're all striving to live longer, but old age can bring significant challenges to our physical and mental health, as well as strains on family members and caregivers. So, could you tell us a little bit about how does the body and mind change after age 65?
Yeah, so a lot of the changes happen are there two two big buckets. One of them is physiologic. Some of the our body tends to lose some muscle mass and some bone mass, but actually the greater changes are behavioral. We're not running and jumping out of trees like we were as kids. And so as our behavior, our activity levels go down, our body is less prepared to do harder things. And so one of the consequences of that is our balance degrades because we stop challenging it every day, doing all those exciting things that we might have done in the younger years.
Well, and following up on that, could you talk a little bit about what are the ways that falls impact older Americans? What is the risk? How can that risk impact where and how older adults are able to live?
Yeah, so we used to say that about 1 in 4 older adults fall every year, and there's actually no truth to that. It's actually more than a third. Only 1 in 4 are willing to talk about it, and because it's not a source of pride, it's kind of like a scarlet letter. A fall is the number one predictor of you no longer being able to remain independent in your own home, because the consequences are both physiologic and psychological. When you start falling, you start considering, should I be moving? Should I be leaving my home? And you start making business decisions to protect yourself. But those business decisions are actually another word for it. It's called deconditioning. And you're actually leaving yourself more unprepared for if you did fall. So your injuries go up. Falls are the number one cause of accidental injury and death, and that's international, not just United States. And it's just one of those things that we've all had someone in our life that fell. And we know that that tends to be the canary in the coal mine, that something bad is happening in the future. And it's really quick at times.
It is, and I think most of us have had a loved one or family member or friend who's an experienced a fall and has seen the impact. I know that being passionate about this work, and the work you're doing at Nimble is also personal for you. And as you've mentioned, the implications of falls for family members can be a tough area. And certainly it's been a personal one for you. And I'd like to ask that you share a little bit about your personal story and why this area is so important to you.
Yeah, so it really started for me as a young man. A lot of the character I learned really comes from my grandfather, Edwin Martin, who was a master bootmaker for 72 years, World War II vet, and a vibrant individual. And he was living perfectly independently, and then he fell and hit his head. And he went from climbing on the roof and repairing things and painting to suddenly fearful and terrified to leave his home. And that decrease and shrinking of his life was so profound that it actually removed him from relationship. It removed him from enjoying the things that he was doing. And ultimately, it took his life as that brain bleed progressed into a full stroke. And I think the key aspect of it is when you realize that most falls are preventable and anyone can improve their balance, that's what really pushed me over the edge and go, I can't let this be part of someone else's family narrative. Because, if he wouldn't have fallen, he'd still be at Christmases with us today. And my son would be learning from him the same character that he taught me.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to talk a little bit now and just shift from what the need is and the impact to really the innovation we're seeing in the market. So, as I mentioned, we're continuing to see new innovations and technologies that come online every day. And many of those are designed specifically to address challenges that face older adults. And so, with so many emerging tech innovative solutions and alternatives to traditional supports that have been delivered, what do you believe is poised to make the greatest impact?
Well, I think the greatest impact is realizing that today's older adult is so different from the 1990s when most of the programs that we currently deploy at a national level were made, right? I mean, the iPhone wasn't out yet, the internet didn't exist. And you look today and you go in a crowd of 100 older adults and you say, everyone hold up your phones, and 88% of them hold up their smartphone. And so we have these tools that are in place in people's hands and they're using it every day and they're tech savvy. The days of great Aunt Edna not knowing how to text me are over, and those are the anomalies. So we have to move on to our past misconceptions. Older adults are wonderfully motivated to age perfectly, and they have tools in their hands that they never had before. We better be using those tools to help them.
I couldn't agree more. And so specifically about Nimble and the innovative programs that you're offering, um, how do you think these programs in particular are helping overcome some of the identified challenges? And many we've known for a long time, and finally we're seeing innovation that's addressing those specifically.
Well, I think there's really three main buckets. Number one, we're not treating all older adults as one person, as when one program is going to help them. It gives us the ability to personalize things. Smart devices can make smart decisions, and we can measure and impact and change things based on the unique older adult needs. So the personalization has gone up dramatically as the device has gone up, but it's in the home. Right? You look at those innovations, when you require an older adult to leave their home, 9 out of 10 bow out right there. And so every time we create something in the community, we're excluding 90% of the people who have the problem. I think the third thing is we're finally meeting the needs of the people that need it. Imagine all the people that are going to the gym, going to a balance class today. They're the healthiest, most vibrant older adults who aren't falling. The person who's terrified in their own home, that's self conscious, that doesn't want to be seen, those are the people where the innovation can really help because we can make a personalized program for them in the privacy of their own home where they want to receive the care.
I agree. I think the tailored solutions that we're seeing are really making such a difference. One of the things that I'd like to just acknowledge is a lot of the traditional supports that have been developed over the last several decades have really been designed for people, but not necessarily with the people that they're designed to impact.
100%.
So, one thing I would say is we've seen a shift in how new solutions are being developed, and specifically how we're involving end users integrated within the development process. And ultimately, we're hearing from the people who need access to these supports, but also having their voice in designing how these innovations are designed and how ultimately they impact them and for what problems we're trying to solve. So I'd like to hear a little bit about how Nimble is involving members within your design process and the tools that you're bringing to market.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Because we used to design things to solve problems for me as the provider, right? And then we'd throw it in an older adult and we'd wonder why are they not doing it? And we assumed they were unmotivated. So here's what we do is we actually start off with what are the problems that the older adult cares about first? We don't solve problems for hospitals. We don't solve problems because older adults sniff that out. Oh, you're doing this for someone else. We focus only on the older adult, and that's crucial. And in the design, we start at the very beginning by constantly understanding what are the needs, wants, and desires of older adults. And then we allow them to tell us what they want solved. We try to solve it, and we bring them back in the room. And we say, hey, how did we do? And they go, oh, that was terrible. Great. Tell us what to fix. And we go through multiple design sprints, and nothing gets into our product unless 3 or 4 layers of older adults have all risen their hand and go, that was a delightful experience, not acceptable. It had to be lovable.
For sure. I could agree more with that as well. Um, I mean, as we're focusing on increasing access, quality, and equity of healthcare, they happen to represent the pillars of the firm that I have the pleasure of working within, Sellers Dorsey. And it's really the heart of what we do and why we do it. I think you would agree we're both equally passionate about supporting and elevating the experience of the populations that we have the pleasure of supporting. But as we recognize Older Americans Month, not just today, but every day, and the countless individuals that this month celebrates, Dr. Estrada, are there any other final thoughts that you'd like to share?
I think one of the key thoughts I want to remind us all is sometimes it's our biases of the healthcare system or the provider that limits what an older adult gets access to. Let's stop acting like we know what's best for them and let's let them be the consumers of their own decisions. And think of how many times someone goes to the doctor and they go, well, this person's not going to do that anyway, so I'm not going to introduce it. Let's make a decision as an industry that we're going to let older adults truly be their own guides. We're going to offer them every resource available, and we're going to assume that they're motivated and encourage that motivation and never use fear as a motivator, because we should be telling people all the things they can do, not showing them the things they can't. Because, like you said at the very beginning, that aging is not less. And it only becomes less when we introduce fear and anxiety into an older adult's life. Let's build the world we want to age in. And I don't want to age in a world where someone tells me I'm broken. I want to age into a world where someone says, Nathan, you're capable. And I'm more happy every decade of my life. And there's no reason why that should slow down in my 50s, 60s, and 70s.
I think it's a really important message. And I think as we think about the theme of Older Americans Month, Aging Unbound, certainly the ability for somebody to age unbound is giving them control, access to information and technology, and ultimately allowing them to have the independence to decide what will best support them. Well, I want to thank you for joining me today and congratulations on the success and the true passion and mission of what Nimble is doing. Thanks again.